9:03 is the time. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Jane Monreal. Thanks for hanging with us. If you usually join us right at 9 o'clock on the dot, we're up and running and streaming live here on WCNC Plus. Thank you for downloading the app and telling your friends and family, because we cover local, state, national, and international news. But first, we do want to start with local news and the suspect accused of planning a terrorist attack from Mint Hill is expected to be in federal court later on this morning. Our Destiny Richards now in Uptown in front of the federal courthouse with the very latest. Destiny, thanks for joining us. What are you working on?
Yeah, so it's at 10:50 this morning in federal court that we could learn whether Christian Sturtevant will be staying behind bars as this case moves forward. And investigators say the 18-year-old had been planning this attack for nearly a year, and he was under nonstop FBI surveillance in the days leading up to New Year's Eve. Now, just to go back, Sturtevant is charged with attempting to provide material to support ISIS after investigators say he planned a violent attack for New Year's Eve. According to federal authorities, Sturtevant was under investigation after contacting what he believed were ISIS members on social media who were actually undercover officers with NYPD and FBI. They say Sturtevant described plans for a mass stabbing at a grocery store and a fast food restaurant in Mint Hill, allegedly sending photos of knives and hammers and pledging allegiance to ISIS. According to court documents, agents later searched his home and found handwritten notes labeled New Year's Attack 2026, a list of potential targets and tactical gear.
We are leaving no stone unturned here. Our investigation is not over at all. We are looking to find out if there are any associates, if there are any friends, if there are any people he were working with, whether it's domestically here in the United States or overseas.
And federal prosecutors today will be using all of that information to make the case that Sturtevant deserves to stay in jail as their investigation continues. And as this case moves forward, they're going to be saying that he is a danger to the community and deserves to remain in jail. Now, if he is convicted, he could serve up to 20 years in federal prison. We know that he had a first appearance in court last week. The judge ruled that he remain in jail for that duration of time up until now. He will appear in court again at 10:50 this morning. I'll send it back to you, Jane, live here from Uptown.
And with that, let's stick with our local news, because another part of the local situation is, of course, the weather. And it is very foggy out there. It doesn't look like it's, going to be a great day, but apparently it is majestic.
It's going to be really nice. I mean, we had a similar setup yesterday where it was foggy, and then really once about 9-10 o'clock rolls around, you start to see a lot of that fog mix out. And if you liked yesterday's forecast, which it was nice, I mean, upper 60s is where we topped off at. You're going to love today's, because we're talking about near record territory with temperatures rising back into the mid 70s today. So let's start with what's going on outside. I'm going to show you some of my live cameras. This is what it's still looking like for many of us. So this is out there in downtown Monroe, where you can still see that fog lingering. It's been very thick this morning in and around Uptown as well. We like to show you those WCNC tower cams, those live shots, and we couldn't even see the skyline this morning because the fog was so dense. And then there'll be other areas right around Dallas where they're already tapping into that sunshine. Much of the same out towards Lylesville with just a good mix of sun and clouds. Bottom line, we've been under this dense fog advisory this morning, again issued by the National Weather Service. It was supposed to expire at 9 o'clock this morning, but they just extended it until 10 o'clock this morning. So many counties still under that, and it makes sense because look at how low the visibility is. I mean, less than a quarter of a mile for many of us. So if you are preparing to head out the door, just be cautious, because in some spots it's going to be really difficult to see at times where you have to really slow down, and then other times it's going to be just fine. So I'd say by about 10 o'clock, most of that fog is mixing out. We're starting to see those clouds move out as well. And then really the big weather story today, It's going to be sunny, and we're talking about near record warm highs. We're shooting for a high of 75 degrees. Our previous record was 77 degrees, set back in 1890. Now, that was a long time ago. 77, I don't know if we'll actually get to that or break that, but I'm feeling pretty confident with about 75 this afternoon. That's a pretty good looking January day, so if you want to do anything outside, even if you just work from home, maybe you open up your windows, you let in some nice fresh air. That sunlight's also always so nice. Maybe you can take your lunch outside and enjoy it, or maybe you just have dinner outside out on the deck. We're looking at our barbecue forecast here. Temperatures will be into the 70s still by about 4 o'clock this afternoon. Low 70s there, 6 o'clock, mid 60s, just very enjoyable. Now, this is even more abnormal that we're not just looking at one of these random 70-degree days, but we have 4 days in a row where temperatures are in the upper 60s, low to mid 70s. Sunny and nice this afternoon. Tomorrow, still pretty nice. We'll drop those temperatures down just a little bit. We have a weak system, not really doing much. Still a rather very warm day. A few more clouds, though, start to move in on Friday and Saturday, and that's ahead of a cold front that eventually brings us some wet weather. But look at next week, back on track to more seasonal temperatures. We should be right around 52 degrees. So next week, it'll be more average conditions. But look at those overnight lows. I mean, that's going to hurt after having 70-degree days, 29 degrees heading out the door Monday morning, much of the same on Tuesday. Here's our 5-day forecast. So notice really no big problems over the next 3 days, but it's going to be that strong front that we've been talking about, really getting into detail about over the last few days, because we need to let you know about it because it's going to be a bit concerning for the football game on Saturday. And so fast forwarding you through our futurecast, this takes us into Saturday morning. You can see a strong line of thunderstorms, and it's a long line too. You can see how many states it will be impacting. So this is still early on Saturday, and it's still pretty far away from our area. However, it's pretty likely that these storms will pack a punch because the Storm Prediction Center is also indicating, this is on Thursday, that those storms will likely bring some severe weather elements to them from Arkansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, even down across Louisiana. Then Friday, that risk for severe storms, it's going to strengthen even more for that area shaded in orange. So we always like to see what happens before the storm system actually gets to us. Once we're heading into Friday night, that rain is on the way. The bulk of the rain, the heaviest rain, will still stay west of us, but we're just trying to figure out exactly the timing of this as well. So best case scenario is that this is a quick moving system. It weakens as it tracks eastward. We'll get through it earlier in the day on Saturday, and then it wraps up by the afternoon. However, if it slows down and the line actually moves in across the Carolinas, say Saturday afternoon, then that's a little bit more problematic because at that point, temperatures are warm. We're going to be still holding on to 70-degree temperatures, so we'll have the warmth. We'll even have a little humidity, so we'll have the fuel for those storms to really fire up and take off as we're heading into Saturday afternoon. So still really determining the timing of it, but as of now, still confident rain is on the way Friday night and into Saturday. Models this morning are still showing that Saturday's game, likely you're going to want your poncho, your rain gear. Overcast, but still one of those days where it's warm. I mean, 70 degrees by 4 o'clock. So if that line's hitting right around 3, 4 o'clock, again, all the ingredients will be in place for a few storms to develop and form. And with storms, we could see some lightning strikes. So delays could actually happen with that game at home on Saturday. All right, in the meantime, here's our Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast. A lot of sunshine today. Yes, it is foggy. Make sure you're just being careful if you're heading out the door anytime soon. Mild temperatures tonight, right around those mid-40s. Again, Thursday also looks great. More clouds as we're wrapping up our work week. And then Saturday's just kind of the wet day, which would be probably just fine if it wasn't for such a big game that we have on Saturday. But after that, next week it's going to be sunny and nice, just those chilly early mornings, and then seasonal into the 50s plus sunny next week. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. A lot of different things going on.
I mean, can you imagine having a barbecue on your back porch for tonight? January 7th.
I know.
I would do it.
Like it.
I would do it too. I was talking to my mom yesterday. when I got home from work.
Yeah.
She lives in Washington State, and so I have all my windows open. I like to let in the fresh air when
Sure.
I'm cleaning my house, turn on some music, and I'm like, yeah, it's nice here. She's like, oh, it's snowing. So we're FaceTiming each other, and she has snow and wind, and it's like a winter wonderland. And meanwhile, I'm like, well, it's like 70 degrees.
Oh, but you miss that too.
I do.
The snow.
Yeah, well, not the wind. That's just the
The
most
wind
miserable.
is the worst.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Sunny and snowy, I can deal with that totally.
Yes.
All right, Majestic Storm, thank you very much for joining us here.
Of course.
Live
See you
Impact
tomorrow.
Studio. See you tomorrow. Enjoy today, the rest of the day. That's the
Thank
nice
you.
thing about working so early, right? You're out of here
Yeah.
afternoon. You can enjoy a nice afternoon like that
Yes.
if you're not so sleepy and
And
you
the
can take a
sunshine
nap.
helps. So then you're
That's
like, okay,
true.
maybe I'm not so tired.
That energy boost, a little natural vitamin D.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. We'll be right back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Time right now is 9:16. Want to bring you some breaking news. A live picture out of Los Angeles where you can see that pickup is in this collision involving a commuter train there carrying 60 passengers. The train seems to be on the track. Truck is not, or trying to cross the track as well. East Washington Boulevard and San Pedro Street in LA. That causing some road closures for the early morning commute there in LA. Just wanted to show you that live shot out of Los Angeles. Right now we are covering some breaking news, of course, on the international stage. Everything involving Venezuela, the capture of their president, Nicolas Maduro. They made their appearance in federal court in New York earlier this week. Latest we're hearing right now that the U.S. has seized a Russian-flagged oil tanker linked to Venezuela. Alice Barr in Washington for NBC News with the latest.
In a new sign of the importance of Venezuelan oil, President Trump announcing Venezuela's interim authorities will turn over 30 to 50 million barrels of oil to the U.S. to be sold at market price, and that President Trump would control the profits to benefit the people of both countries. That as he praised the U.S. mission to capture Venezuela's now deposed authoritarian leader, Nicolas Maduro.
It was so complex, 152 airplanes, many. Talk about boots on the ground. We had a lot of boots on the ground.
Maduro and his wife now facing federal charges in the U.S., accused of bringing tons of illegal drugs into this country. While on Capitol Hill, Democrats are questioning the motivation for Maduro's removal.
The president, said this was about narco trafficking, and now he's saying it's about oil.
All members of Congress are due for a briefing today on the operation amid mounting questions about what's next, as President Trump asserts the U.S. is in charge in Venezuela, while the country's interim president, a close Maduro ally, insists no external agent is governing the country. Her government cracking down on dissent and detaining journalists.
Colombia agradece la convocatoria.
And across the border in Colombia, where President Trump has signaled he may focus next, heightened alert.
This sets a precedent that is extremely worrying because it threatens regional peace and security.
While European allies are voicing deep concern amid new details from the White House that President Trump and his team are discussing a range of options for acquiring Greenland, and that using the U.S. military is always an option, calling it a national security priority. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
Time right now is 9:19 here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We also did a number of interviews with local professors who specialize in Latin studies. One from UNC Charlotte, Gregory Weeks. Some new developments there as well, and we'll bring you that insight here. It was previously recorded from last night here on WCNC Plus. So if you missed it, we'll get that to you here in just a moment. But first, of course, this is the first week of January now in the books, and we know millions of people this month are reconsidering the relationship with alcohol. We call it Dry January. Some are going completely dry, some maybe moderately drinking. Julian Braithwaite, Director General of the International Alliance of Responsible Drinking, joining us this morning to discuss what decades of research are now telling us about alcohol and health. Julian, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So talk to us, break down this Dry January. Some people have never heard of it. It seems like it's becoming a growing cultural phenomenon.
As you say, it's becoming something of an annual tradition. And look, anything that gets people to pause and reflect on their relationship with alcohol can be a good thing. But here's the thing, what the science, and this is based on decades of research, what the science shows is that drinking moderately throughout the year is better than any 1 month single fix. And it's likely to be more sustainable and less likely to lead to the sort of cycles of binge and bust that are obviously not a good idea.
Okay, all right. So what prompted this Dry January, and what is the research? What is surprising you about this research?
So I think this is a tradition that I think began actually in the United Kingdom, but it's obviously crossed the pond to us here in the United States. But it's a good thing, and anything that does get people to pause and reflect on their relationship with alcohol, as I say, is helpful. But the science is really quite stable on this, and what the science shows that people who drink moderately live at least as long as people who don't drink at all. So when people are thinking about their relationship with alcohol, that's a really important thing to have in mind, which is that the science is on the side of moderation.
So what does it mean to be moderately drinking? How do you measure that?
So it's about patterns, long-term patterns of drinking. It's about which matter more than any sort of short-term changes. It's about spreading your drinking out across the week and indeed across the year. It's 1 to 2 drinks a day. Depends. It's slightly different for men and women. Every country has its own different national guidelines. There's no one size fits all when it comes to moderation. And for some people, the best choice is not to drink at all. But for most adults, drinking in moderation in this way is low risk.
What do you think is being missed in the conversation then about alcohol and health?
So I think it is. There's this, growing concern that drinking in moderation itself is unhealthy. I mean, you see the polling which says this. And I think that's where the sort of the narrative has sort of got ahead of the science, really, because coming back to the science, and it's very stable and it's based on decades of research, actually drinking in moderation is the better approach than a 1 month reset, which may not lead to long-term and stable drinking patterns later.
And so for whom does abstaining make sense to?
So look, for some people that is the best choice. If you're a pregnant woman, for example, you shouldn't be drinking. And depending on people's individual context, their health histories, that may be the right choice as well. And people should always talk to their doctor. But the overall message, which is that on average, people who drink moderately live at least as long as people who don't drink at all. That's the thing to bear in mind when people are thinking about, what's the best approach, the most sensible approach in terms of their relationship to alcohol.
And specifically when it comes to Gen Z and their approach to drinking, what makes this generation different?
So it's really interesting that. I mean, the data's showing that they're perhaps the most intentional generation when it comes to drinking, that they are very deliberate about it, that it's linked to the occasion, that it's linked to their overall approach to well-being. They're drinking in different ways. They're doing something that's called zebra striping. I think here in the United States you'd call it zebra striping, where they're alternating, going out for a beer, and then they'll follow up with a non-alcoholic beer, for example. There's lots of great no and low products that are now in the market, and people are using them to have more choice and to drink more moderately, and that's a good thing.
Okay, interesting. And for someone who is drinking occasionally, trying to figure out where they are with their habits, figure out if they're healthy or not, what should we be thinking about?
So look, it's a personal choice, of course, but I think the key thing to take away is the science is on the side of moderation. Drinking moderately, long-term patterns, drinking patterns are better than one-off single-month fixes. Thinking about the whole year rather than just the month. Those are the things to bear in mind, and to be reassured that actually the science supports drinking in moderation.
All right, very good. Great conversation and insight. Julian Braithwaite with the International Alliance for Responsible Drinking. That's what it's about. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we'll be right back on Live Impact News on WCNC+. At 9:27, you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC+. I'm Jane Monreal. We continue to follow the events post-Venezuela operation last weekend, capturing their president, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife, and what that means on the global scale and really here on U.S. soil. Breaking news that U.S. has seized a Venezuela-linked oil ship that they claim is owned by Russia. And we also are learning this morning that Venezuela is set to give the U.S. up to 50 million barrels of oil. Yesterday here on WCNC Plus and Live Impact News, our Nick Sturdivant talked to the UNC Charlotte professor Gregory Weeks, who is also following these developments and lending some more insight. Here is that previously recorded interview for you now on Live Impact News.
Welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. So we've been covering for days now. What's next when it comes when it comes as far as talking about Venezuela, right? So here's what we got. I want to read you the latest from NBC News. So President Donald Trump told NBC News he could launch a second military operation in Venezuela if his acting president stops cooperating. He also said the U.S. may subsidize an effort by oil firms to rebuild the country's energy infrastructure. I want to read you one last thing. A U.S. official told NBC News that a recent classified intelligence assessment determined that top members of the regime, including new acting leader Delcy Rodriguez, were best positioned to lead a stable government if Nicolas Maduro lost power. Now, as you remember, and as we've been covering, we've been talking about that deposed leader, Venezuelan leader, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife, Celia Flores, pleaded not guilty in New York after they were captured in that surprise attack. Maduro in court saying, I am a prisoner of war, still exerting his power there, still saying, hey, I'm still the president there in Venezuela. We want to bring in, and we had him on yesterday afternoon, so I'm thankful that he's able to make it back. Dr. Greg Weeks, Associate Dean of College of Humanities and Earth and Social Sciences, Latin American Studies there at UNC Charlotte. Thank you for joining us again, Dr. Weeks.
No, thank you for having me.
I know it was a lot I put out there in the beginning, and we continue to get updates seemingly by the minute on what's been playing out in Venezuela and how it impacts sort of everything that's been going on around the world. World leaders are also reacting. Just from those updates I provided, I guess your assessment on what's been playing out the last 48 hours or so.
Well, what we've seen, really unlike a lot of U.S. invasions in the past, is that a very quick military operation to remove a president that does not leave U.S. troops on the ground. So we have this interesting situation where you have a dictatorship, and the dictatorship is completely still in power. The vice president was very close to Maduro. So it's not exactly clear what has changed in Venezuela itself. And we'll have to see how the Trump administration maintains control over Delcy Rodriguez sort of from afar, as I said yesterday, by remote control. And really, this is something where things are changing by the hour, just not entirely clear what direction Venezuela is going to take. It's very different from other cases.
Well, we've heard from France, we've heard from Iran, again, countries from different ends of the perspective and as far as how they view what's happening in Venezuela. But the overall sentiment is cautiously, well, with France, cautiously optimistic, but some pessimism in what's happening there and what's played out. So what's from your vantage point, the public view of the United States and what's been happening from these countries' perspective?
Well, I think what you're seeing is a lot of countries and people within those countries viewing the U.S. as just sort of doing what it wants and not really particularly concerned about international law or sovereignty of other countries. So they wonder, well, what could this lead to? What further things could happen as a result of this? So very cautious. Nobody's shedding any tears about Nicolas Maduro leaving power, because he was quite cruel and wouldn't allow elections and shut down all opposition. So he himself isn't really the issue, but it's rather a matter of international law. Can the U.S. simply go and grab people from other countries, leaders of other countries that it doesn't like? And so that's why you're seeing particularly Russia and China. Well, if you can do that near your country, maybe we can do that near our countries. So that's why there's a lot of sort of hesitancy around the world about what the U.S. has done.
And that being said, and this is not really a question, I just kind of want to get your thoughts on this. The conversation over Greenland has come back up. When you hear that, and also again what's been playing out, your thoughts and your sort of, could you provide some context on what's happening there?
So Greenland is so different. It's a very different situation. President Trump has been interested in obtaining Greenland for a long time, but it's different because it's part of a democratic country. An autonomous region of Denmark. It's certainly not a dictatorship. It has not sort of violated the rights of its own people. It's just simply something that the president wants. So it's different in that way. It's different also is that would require invasion. You can't sort of land a few troops and have them leave, and the U.S. suddenly controls Greenland. So obtaining Greenland would be an act of war, even more so than with Venezuela. And so that's why you see a lot more opposition to discussions about Greenland, even more so than with Venezuela.
One thing that you talked about yesterday afternoon, and I want to ask you this before I let you go. There has been comparisons to U.S. interventions in countries like Panama, Cuba, Guatemala. For historical context, because U.S. as I just laid out there, intervention is nothing new when it comes to the U.S. And looking back in history, decades, it went from Cold War to the war on drugs. Could you explain sort of the difference? Because there's a difference between, because you keep hearing what happened in Panama, but there's a clear difference there, right?
Well, there is. The U.S. has invaded numerous countries, many in Latin America, and one thing that's always happened is that the U.S. has sent thousands of troops. So in Panama, it's thousands of troops fighting, U.S. troops, and then they stay there. They stay there perhaps only a matter of weeks, but they stay there until the U.S. decides that things are stabilized. And so this is very different. The U.S. is not does not have occupying troops, and that raises the question of how control can be exerted when the U.S. does not have troops there. So a lot of the similarities that appear on the surface are quite different. Venezuela is a much larger country than, say, a Panama or a Dominican Republic. So this is really uncharted territory for doing this from afar, and so we have to watch day by day how this plays out.
And that was our Nick Sturtevant with Professor Dr. Gregory Weeks. And that is what we're doing. We're watching day by day as things seem to be changing on a daily basis. Time right now is 9:36. We'll be right back here on Live Impact News on WCNC+. All right, time right now is 9:39 here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Thanks for hanging with us every morning where we have live local feeds and important discussions. One of them being, as again, we are at the end of the first 7 days of the new year. So with the new year underway, many of us have, of course, set health goals, but sticking with them can always be a challenge. So to discuss why consistency matters more than perfection is Melissa Yeager, registered dietitian and the head of nutrition at MyFitnessPal. Melissa, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good morning to you. So we are into week 1 of 2026. What are you seeing in terms of approaching health goals this year compared to previous years?
This year, I really hope that individuals focus on science-backed nutrition guidance they can trust. And so I find that there's 2 habits that can be really impactful to kickstart your new year. The first being tracking your food using MyFitnessPal. By tracking, you can actually see how the nutrients and foods you're choosing to consume daily stack up to help you meet those goals over time. And the second is cooking more at home, which I find to be a very common goal in the new year and one that I personally enjoy. And so to set yourself up for success, we've actually partnered with professional basketball player Cameron Brink to create an exclusive Blue Check collection, which is an in-app set of registered dietitian reviewed recipes that break through a lot of those viral food trends that you're seeing online. And best of all, I've personally tried all of the recipes, and these are meals your family will actually enjoy.
Yeah, I was going to say we are seeing a lot of social media following some of the diet trends, what to cook, what not to do, what is science-backed based, and what habits should we actually focus on then instead of chasing some of these viral trends?
The beauty of logging your food is that you can log to see the facts. So if you want to try one of the new viral recipes or a new food product being promoted, I find that the key to building more sustainable habits that garner real results is by logging to unlock, are those foods, are those recipes providing our body with the nutrients they need to help us build muscle, lose weight, or simply eat a more balanced diet? Or are there maybe a few missing nutrients that we can add in other meals or snacks throughout the day to create an overall balanced diet to help you reach your health goals, not just in January, but throughout the year?
Yeah, I've used MyFitnessPal. It's so easy, and really food tracking has come such a long way, right? Just scanning the food, not having to read so many ingredients. How does consistency play a part then over perfection? Explain what that really means in practice on a day-to-day basis.
You're spot on there that I want consumers to step away from that mindset of needing to be perfect with their food and instead focus on staying consistent with making small but impactful changes. We may set goals for ourselves that we want to lose weight or we want to build muscle, but those are gradual changes, not overnight transformations. And when it comes down to it, that's where nutrition tracking can really factor in, because you can start to see how those small changes you're choosing to make in your diet and exercise that are unique to you and your health goals stack up over time, and continue to focus on that throughout the course of the year and not just to kick off the new year.
All right, so MyFitnessPal has also come a long way with AI features. How is that being incorporated now?
We wanted to design features that make food logging faster and easier so you can focus on staying consistent with your goals and save valuable time. So we've launched both Meal Scan and Voice Logging. Meal Scan simply allowing you to take a picture of your meal and log it with the tap of a button. And Voice Logging is my personal favorite because you can quickly speak into your phone and log your meal, say when you're rushing out the door in the morning and you're trying to eat your breakfast on the way to work. It makes logging so fast and effortless because we're busier than ever these days. And so tools that save you time and allow you to stay consistent are all part of how MyFitnessPal has evolved.
So I can just go steel cut oats with berries. Boom, right?
Exactly. Cool. You can tap and speak directly into it. I am a sucker, though, for talking about portion sizes, too, because then it makes it a little bit easier for it to get the exact nutrients. But you can simply say, I had a bowl of oatmeal topped with blueberries, and you can always modify those exact portions or serving amounts before you finish logging.
All right, very cool. For someone who's fallen off track with their New Year's goals already, what would you say to them?
I would say you haven't fallen off yet. The new year has just started. And in reality, health is 365 days a year. It is not make it or break it at 1 month or one particular point. And you don't have to be perfect to make progress towards those goals. So give yourself a little grace and feel free to go ahead and download the app today to get back on with tracking your food this new year.
All right, there you go. I might need to go back and check it out just for fun. Thanks,
Excellent.
Melissa. Melissa Yeager, dietitian and head of nutrition with MyFitnessPal. Thank you this morning. Very good information there. And we'll be right back on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Back here now at 9:47 on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Let's talk about some good news. Panthers are in the conversation, division lead for the NFC South, and so we have a home game, playoff season now, which really means it's a new season. And so with that, we have Panthers on the Plus every night this week at 9, and we have special coverage for the pregame on Saturday. You're going to want to stick with us here on WCNC Plus then. Everyone's really psyched for the game. And our Nick Carboni leading things this week, talking to many guests, many talking heads and writers and journalists around town talking about this game. Yesterday's was with Charlotte Observer's Alex Zetlow, talking about what they need to get to or beyond this Saturday. And this was on Panthers on the Plus last night's edition at 9 o'clock. If you missed it, we will play that for you now here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Panthers on the Plus. I am WCNC Charlotte Sports Director Nick Carboni. It is Tuesday, and it is day 2 of our nightly conversations at 9 o'clock, talking Panthers in the playoffs, taking on the LA Rams Saturday afternoon at Bank of America Stadium. We have a special guest every single night of the week. Got a really special one tonight. It is Alex Zetlow from the Charlotte Observer, who just got back from the bank. What's up, Alex?
What's up, man? Hey, I was about to say, if you were going to be in the studio, I will gladly join you.
I know. You were like texting me a couple minutes ago, like, do I need to be there right now? I was like, well, we could just do Zoom. It's okay. We're all really busy right now, but busy in a good way. So just like some inside baseball here, because of today's locker room times, I was not able to stick around. So for everybody out there who doesn't really know what the vibe was today, what was said, and this is the first time we've gotten to talk to the players since they knew they were going to be in the postseason, and now they're prepping for the Rams. So for everybody else out there and me, what was it like in there today, and what stood out?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't really know what I was expecting, full disclosure. I mean, this team hasn't been in the playoffs since 2017, hasn't hosted a playoff game since 2015. Dave Canales is a second-year head coach, hasn't been to the playoffs as a head coach. Obviously, Bryce Young also. So it's like there are all these things. The Panthers actually have 7 Super Bowl winning players on their roster. And I think, and of those, there are like an additional 13 who have made the playoffs for other teams before. Obviously, only 2 have made the playoffs with the Panthers, and that's J.J. Jansen and Taylor Moton. So I say all that to say, this is like the most varied playoff experience group. Yeah. That in the NFL. So I was like, I really didn't know what to expect, and I was expecting some sort of like excitement, some elevated, I wouldn't say like delirium necessarily, because like, you know, it's been a couple of days since they made the playoffs, and it's not a game day or anything like that. But I was expecting something special, and then you go up, you meander over to Mike Jackson, the Panthers cornerback who's having a wonderful year, and you're like, yo, Mike, so like, how'd you feel when you realized you made the playoffs? And he was like, oh, I was playing 2K. Yeah, I like learned about it on Twitter. And you're like, okay, well, maybe Mike Jack is just like this special kind of person who doesn't really look into anything. You go over to T-Mac, Tedero McMillan, rookie, and he was like, oh yeah, I was watching a movie. And I'm just like, what movie was it? And he was like, I don't even remember. You're telling me that you were watching a movie that you don't even remember, instead of, you know, watching this Falcons Saints game that decided the fate of this franchise and all these things. So that just kind of encapsulates kind of what the vibe was in the lockers room. The players were very much back to business, even as Dave Canales acknowledged how special this was, even as all 52 players on the active roster right now practiced in some capacity, which hasn't happened in a long time. So clearly something is different. But the players themselves were reticent to say that it was different, if that makes sense.
It does. 52 players on the active roster, you say. There's room for one more. What do we know about guard Robert Hunt and wide receiver David Moore? Moore is up on the active roster again, I believe, and now it's just a matter of if whether or not Hunt's going to be ready, right?
That's exactly right. Carboni, you're so good at this. That was remarkable.
I just read you, so you know how it works. I just read you.
Yes, precisely. The Panthers have 52 players on the active roster right now. Obviously, the active roster can hold up to 53 players. They have 2 players on the injured reserve who are practicing right now. Those 2 are guard Robert Hunt and guard Chandler Zavala. And Chandler Zavala just had his practice window open today. It's reading the tea leaves, it's really unlikely that he'll be ready to go by Saturday. But Robert Hunt has been practicing for now over 2 weeks at this point. And I think my sense was that the timeline for Robert Hunt was always going to be, okay, if the Panthers do make the postseason, he should be ready for that first playoff game. He obviously suffered a biceps injury, a really significant one in week 2. If it didn't happen in week 2, they would have just, even if it happened in week 4 or something, they would have just shut him down for the year. Obviously, if you remember, Austin Corbett had literally the same exact injury last year, week 5, and they called it a season-ending injury like immediately. So I think that things are, I don't know what the proper language is, but things are trending up. And I would say that the Panthers would, because of their tendency to push things all the way to the game and to do this gamesmanship thing, I would imagine that he would be questionable going into Saturday. But if you're asking Alex Zetlow, I think Robert Hunt does play because he feels physically ready, according to Dave Canales, and he's been mentally ready for a long time. He's been in the building throughout the whole season.
Yeah, gamesmanship is fair game, in my opinion, heading into this game with a player like that, even though it's not the sexiest of positions. I mean, this guy is a beast in the run game, and they need to get that back on track. I mean, what would a Robert Hunt, and let's assume he is close to what he was before the week 2 injury, what would that bring to this offense at large, let alone just the interior up front?
Yeah, I think Austin Corbett has actually done a pretty good job just by me watching the all 22 tape or whatever after the game. I think he's actually done a pretty good job. I know a lot of fans were questioning him at the center spot prior to Cade Mays kind of coming in and taking over there. But at right guard, I think he's done a pretty good job. Now, when you marry that with the fact that the Panthers haven't been able to run the ball effectively the last couple of weeks, and you have a Pro Bowl guy like Robert Hunt coming back into the mix, yeah, you would hope that the run game gets better. The run game can't really get any worse also. I mean, they averaged 1.4 yards per carry against the Bucs last week. They were slipping and sliding everywhere. It didn't matter if they had longer spikes on their cleats or what have you. Rico Dowdle is over 1,000 rushing yards on the year, but I don't think he's had over 60 in like several weeks. Chuba Hubbard similarly has struggled in the run game. I mean, to answer your question, adding someone like Robert Hunt back into the starting lineup can only be a positive, especially if he's fully healthy. But I wonder if this run game stuff is more than just players executing. I wonder if it feels like it's a broader problem, perhaps a scheme problem, perhaps going up against good defensive lines and all these things. So, and it's interesting, the Panthers haven't run the ball well since Week 13 against the Los Angeles Rams, when they were able to dominate time of possession, be really good on third down, keep the ball out of Matt Stafford's hands. So, I mean, hey, no better time to get back on track.
Could it be any sort of predictability from a play calling standpoint? I mean, this is the identity the Panthers want to establish, and it seems like they do have certain tendencies of when they want to run the ball, and they're very stubborn about it, which sometimes can be a good thing. But obviously teams have kind of keyed in on it.
Yeah, I think you nailed it spot on. I mean, if you look at the trends of the season, yes, at the beginning of the year there was some difficulty trying to manage carries for both Chuba Hubbard and for Rico Dowdle, but then Rico really splashed, not only when he got the lion's share of the carries and could kind of feel the game out, but also when teams didn't really know what to expect from Rico. I think that's a really fair thing to say. When you don't know a team's identity, it's harder to game plan for them, just simply said. And it also helped that Rico got going against some of the worst rush defenses in the league as well. But yeah, I think there is a play calling thing there, but I'm not someone who is going to be able to go line for line and say, okay, Dave should have called this, Dave should have called that. That's not my strength. But I think what you're saying is very true.
Quickly before we go to break, David Moore being activated after his own long stint on injured reserve, what role could he potentially play Saturday, do you think?
He could play special teams, could be a really important player in special teams from a gunner perspective. I don't see him being one of the guys. Okay. One of the I mean, he could get in for several series, like on the field playing at the wide receiver spot, but I don't expect him to take reps from Jalen Coker, not from Xavier Legette, and certainly not from T-Mac. That's where I would see him. I actually talked to him today. The reporters talked to him today, and it was interesting. He talked about how the injury that he sustained kind of made him step back and really appreciate what this wide receiver room has done. And he concluded it by saying, and maybe I'm just splitting hairs here, but he concluded it by saying, I'm excited to watch them on Saturday.
And that's very interesting, yeah.
I mean, maybe that's Alex looking too deep into something.
No,
maybe
I mean, I think it seems like underlying there's he may not be the plug him in the slot and Bryce is hitting him on third down that everybody kind of wants to see again out of him. But, that's probably asking a lot at this point, and they've got other guys out there.
Yeah, that's how I see it too.
All right, Alex Zetlow from the Charlotte Observer. We're going to have much more with him. Can this Panthers team, can Bryce Young, can Dave Canales meet the moment this Saturday against the LA Rams?
All right, Nick took a break. We're going to take a real break here on Live Impact News at 10 a.m. on WCNC Plus. We'll be back in 2. Hi, everyone. 10:02 is the time. It's Wednesday morning here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Jane Monreal. We're in the middle of playing last night's edition of Panthers on the Plus. Of course, a week long of extra special coverage with the Panthers now in the playoffs and home field advantage for this Saturday against LA at Bank of America Stadium. So as we build and count down the days till game day, our Nick Carboni talking to Alex Zetlow from Charlotte Observer talking about the playoffs. We like this talk. We'll continue this for you now here on WCNC Plus.
On Panthers on the Plus with Charlotte Observer beat writer Alex Zetlow, one of our nightly guests this week as we get you ready for the Panthers' first postseason appearance since 2017. We'll be here every single night at 9 o'clock. Tomorrow is one of Alex's predecessors, Jordan Rodrigue, who has spent a lot of time with the Rams since she left. She'll be on tomorrow. And we will have a live pregame show, 2:30 to 3:30, outside the bank on WCNC Plus before 4:30 kickoff. Alex, you are one of the hosts of one of my favorite podcasts this year talking about the Panthers, Processing Blue, and I think you're smiling because you know that I tend to watch it while I'm doing things I hate. I think I listened to a whole episode standing in a rental car counter line. Holy moly, Denver Airport. You got to fix that. A lot of diaper changes recently have come while listening to Processing Blue. Processing Blue. That's right. But I do love it. You guys are great. And your buddy Mike Kay alluded on Twitter before I came to the microphone here to some sort of special guest. I will wait and see who it is unless you want to break that news here. But it sounds fun, so I can't wait to listen. When is that coming out?
That is coming out tomorrow morning.
Morning. Great. Diaper time, buddy.
No, yeah, we're talking, crack of dawn morning. So feel free to get woken up by your beautiful new child.
I will be up before dawn. I can promise you that. You mentioned and it was a very interesting point in our first segment, Alex, about this isn't like, you can't just call this like a young team. You can't call it a veteran-laden team. You kind of gave us your sense of the somewhat business-like approach, like not just like a bunch of young guys that don't know what the situation is. Like, what's your perspective on whether how special this team knows this opportunity is, especially in year 2 of this all coming together?
So I don't know why this is coming to mind when you ask me that question, but when I was a very young reporter at the Rock Hill Herald,
I remember.
No, you don't. You're being very nice, but no, you don't.
I do, but go on.
And so I was covering high school sports, but I was also covering Winthrop men's basketball.
Yep.
And the head coach over at Winthrop was this guy named Pat Kelsey. He is now the head coach at Louisville, just became the ACC Coach of the Year, or was that last year, and he's just an absolute, he's an amazing coach with amazing energy and all these things. When I was there, he was turning around the Winthrop program, and Winthrop went over to St. Mary's, a ranked St. Mary's team over on the West Coast, and beat them. And afterward, me and Pat had several long Q&As, and I said, Pat, and I didn't know what else to ask, so I was like, Pat, what gave this team the audacity to think that they could beat a ranked team on the road, small Winthrop from small Rock Hill, like all that stuff? And he said this quote, "They're too naive to know any different." And I think that is what this Panthers team is. They are so naive. They think that they can split in metronomic succession the last 8 games of the year, well, outside of losing 2 in a row. They think that they can do that and be a playoff team. They think that they can lose their season finale against the Bucks and be a playoff team in Atlanta. They think that without 4 key defensive playmakers in Week 13 against the MVP candidate in Matthew Stafford, against one of the best offenses and best offensive play callers in Sean McVay, that they can beat the Rams, and they did, because they are naive. I think that is what this team has been all season. I think I don't know how else to put it, because outside of that, I'm still struggling to figure out who these Panthers are, and I mean that in the most delightfully confused way. Because at the beginning of the season, I'll brag here, but then I'm gonna explain how I shouldn't be bragging. At the beginning of the season, I chose them to go 8-9. I was like, okay, this is who they are. This is just a gradual ascension, whatever. But during the season, like week to week, I think overall I've been correct on like 6 games.
Right. The path to 8-9 was wild.
What are we doing? You're beating the Packers, you're beating the Rams, you're getting swept by the Saints, who everyone considered them to be like Panthers 2023 2.0. So I don't truly know. I don't think the prudent fan who is truly honest with themselves knows what they can expect from these Panthers week in and week out. And that's what's made this season so spectacular. So when I walked into the locker room today expecting some sort of thing, I'm not sure why I expected it, because I haven't been able to deduce anything from this team all season. But they've been a wonderful team to cover as well.
Here in year 3, we finally get to see Bryce Young, who played in so many massive games in college, play in his biggest game as a professional quarterback. What's your sense of how he's approaching it, kind of his mindset, and also how ready he is as a quarterback in this league to take this stage?
I think he is absolutely ready. We actually asked that of Dave Canales today, and he said, I think that this is kind of where Bryce Young is most comfortable, because he is. since we've said this stat, I don't know how many times, but since coming into the league in 2023, he has led 12 game-winning drives. 6 of them have been this year. He's only won. Nick, can you remind me?
All right, so two in year one, right? And then 5. Was he there? No, not one of them 4 last year. Yeah, 4 because of the benching last year. Out of the 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's either 12 of 16 or I can't exactly remember.
The comeback wins. Yeah.
Yes, of comeback wins. This dude pretty much exclusively wins in come from behind, fourth quarter, game-winning drive ways. And that has benefited Ryan Fitzgerald, the Panthers' kicker. He has had a great season in the clutch as well. But the whole point is like, this is when Bryce is at his best. In the largest moments, when the spotlight is the brightest, when he can kind of fall back on his training, and while everyone else is freaking out, he can kind of just be this calming force. At least that's what it seemed so far. That's what the stats bear out. When the game is not close is when he is not playing at his best. So yeah, that's probably an annoyingly vague answer, but I think that is true to a certain extent. Now, he did kind of show. I mean, they only scored 14 points or something like that last week, but he did kind of show that he could lead an offense by himself. The run game was absolutely non-existent. So he threw for over 200 yards.
266, yeah.
266, which is more than he has in pretty much
most games, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he's shown that he can kind of put this offense on his back when required, and he can also use his legs too. I think that we're going to see a really good Bryce Young this weekend. Now, will everyone else be really good against a really motivated Rams team, against a Rams offense that has some licks to get back after a 3 turnover performance in Charlotte a couple weeks prior? That's still to be determined, but I think Bryce is due for a really good game.
All right, can the Panthers...
We are following some breaking news right now at 10:11. This is a live picture out of Miami, Florida, where 2 Miami police officers, are injured after being struck by an SUV. This is 836, otherwise known as Dolphin Expressway, and you can see all of the flashing lights there ahead. According to Miami police, the officers were driving motorcycles right around Lejeune Road and Northwest 42nd when they were struck by the SUV. So investigation now underway this morning, as you can currently see that live picture with this crash involving at least 2 police officers from Miami PD, possibly dealing with leg and arm injuries is what police are saying. And they went to Jackson Memorial Hospital as a precaution, of course, are expected to be okay. We will take a quick break here on Live Impact News on WCNC+. Right at 10:15, you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. Happening right now is an oversight fraud hearing. This is the House Oversight Committee hearing on fraud in Minnesota. Holding this hearing, it's titled Oversight of Fraud and Misuse of Federal Funds in Minnesota, Part 1. Let's go ahead and listen in on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Fraud Prevention and State Agency Oversight Policy Committee and representative from Minnesota's District 30A. Next, we have Marion Rarick, a member of Fraud Prevention and State Agency Oversight Policy Committee and representative for District 29B in Minnesota. Lastly, we have Brendan Ballou, a former special counsel at the Department of Justice. So thank you all for joining us, and we look very forward to your testimony today. This is an issue the American people are very interested in. Pursuant to Committee Rule 9G, the witnesses will please stand and raise their right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Let the record show that the witnesses answered in the affirmative. Thank you all, and you may take a seat. We appreciate you being here today and look forward to your testimony. Let me remind the witnesses that we have read your written statements, and they will appear in full in the hearing record. Please limit your oral statements to 5 minutes. As a reminder, please press the button on the microphone in front of you so that it is on and the members can hear you. When you begin to speak, the light in front of you will turn green. After 4 minutes, the light will turn yellow. When the red light comes on, your 5 minutes have expired, and we would ask that you please wrap up. I now recognize Representative Robbins for her opening statement.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members. Thank you for inviting us to testify. As chair of the Fraud Prevention Committee in Minnesota, I've been working to uncover the massive fraud under Tim Walz, propose solutions, and hold state agencies accountable. Today, I will highlight the scale of the problem, outline the work our committee is doing to fight the fraud, and provide a roadmap for other states on how to detect and stop fraud. Minnesota is one of the highest tax states in the nation, and hardworking Minnesotans have been told that they don't pay their fair share for years. In truth, Minnesotans pay much more in taxes than in other states, and when they pay their taxes, they expect that their money is going to things that help our communities: roads, schools, healthcare, and law enforcement. They do not want their tax dollars absconded by criminals to buy resorts and apartment buildings in Kenya, property in Turkey, and luxury homes and cars in the U.S. Tim Walz and his administration have willfully turned a blind eye to crime in the face of countless whistleblower and auditor reports, as well as stories by local investigative journalists and the Center of the American Experiment. These are actual crimes that must be punished. They are crimes against our moral values and erode trust in government. The time for accountability and justice is here. First, we are unearthing staggering amounts of fraud in Minnesota. As far back as 2014, there were credible whistleblower allegations of millions in daycare fraud. Instead of shutting it down, the state minimized whistleblower reports and allowed fraud to grow. Unfortunately, child care fraud was just the tip of the iceberg. Since 2019, Tim Walz and Minnesota Democrats have allowed fraud to absolutely explode in Minnesota. There's been more than $300 million in the Feeding Our Future child nutrition program scandal, and the Feeding Our Future prosecutions revealed that as many as half of those indicted also ran other Medicaid-funded programs. Yet despite this being known back in 2023, Tim Walz and his agencies have done nothing to stop those defendants from getting additional state money. We have now found fraud in multiple Medicaid programs, including autism centers, sober homes, non-emergency medical transportation, integrated community supports, and housing stabilization. Just last month, our committee held a hearing on credible allegations of fraud in 2 new areas: adult day services and assisted living. First, U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson, the leading prosecutor in these cases from the Biden administration and the Trump administration, says the fraud could be an astronomical $9 billion. In the face of mounting reports and literal criminal indictments and convictions, the Walz administration has repeatedly and publicly denied or downplayed the fraud. Just last January, the commissioner of DHS, Jody Harpstead, who'd been on the job for 5.5 years, said, "There's a lot more rumors of fraud than there is actual fraud." You cannot make this up. The Walz administration has been gaslighting Minnesotans on the scale of the fraud problem for years. In response, when Republicans took control or ended Democrat control of the Minnesota House last year, we created the Fraud Prevention and State Agency Oversight Committee. Since last February, we have held 15 hearings where we have grilled officials, exposed new areas of fraud, and repeatedly flagged failures in internal controls. I authored a new law to expand whistleblower protection, and we created a portal, mnfraud.com, resulting in a surge of new whistleblower reports that our amazing staff is still working through. Under the leadership of our Vice Chair, Patty Anderson, we passed a bipartisan bill in the Senate to create an independent Office of Inspector General. When it got to the House, Democrats killed it because the DHS commissioner testified against it. The Tim Walz administration has utterly failed to protect Minnesota taxpayers and vulnerable citizens, ignoring years of credible reports and retaliating against those who spoke up, often by claiming they were racist or Islamophobic. Tim Walz and the Democrats have repeatedly protected their political base at the expense of all Minnesotans. Other states should learn from the failures of the Walz administration, so I'll give you a quick roadmap on how to find and stop fraud. First, culture matters. Fraud flourishes when leaders ignore it and criminals see they can get away with it. Second, fraud flourishes when basic internal controls are not followed. This is not complicated. Third, you have to look at the interconnections of relationships in businesses in multiple program areas in Medicaid. It's a huge red flag that has been ignored in our state. Finally, it is important to say what is true and to stand up against fake allegations of racism or Islamophobia. Crime is crime, no matter who is committing it. It is true that the majority of the fraud in Minnesota has taken place in the Somali community. And it is also true that some of our best whistleblowers are from the Somali community. Democrats refuse to acknowledge this truth, and that has enabled criminals to steal billions and hurt our vulnerable citizens. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to share the lessons from Minnesota and for your help in investigating these crimes. The time for justice and accountability is now.
I now recognize Representative Hudson for his opening statement.
Chairman, ranking member, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today for the record. I am Minnesota State Representative Walter Hudson, a second-term member who sits on our House Fraud Prevention and State Agency Oversight Committee. The recent national conversation about fraud in Minnesota has been fraught with distractions, diverting from critical concerns regarding process, policy, and oversight to sideshow concerns about personalities and partisan politics. My role here today is to cut through all of that and provide you with a clear picture of a culture which has developed over many years around the several generous benefit programs which Minnesota provides to our residents. Well-documented oversight failures have led to a lack of program integrity, creating incentives for people to monetize programs beyond their legislative intent to turn benefits into business. Contrary to the claim just made by the ranking member that there is no evidence of this fraud, attached to my written testimony, you will find a document which collates several reports made over the past 15 years by Minnesota's nonpartisan Office of Legislative Auditor, along with transcripts of each of our hearings from the Fraud Committee, where we heard directly from staff and leaders within the state agencies which administer these programs. Here's what that record indicates. Within the state of Minnesota, government oversight has been unable to keep up with program expansion due to a combination of factors. One, rapid expansion of funding and provider participation. Two, payment systems that prioritize access and speed. Three, verification mechanisms that occur after funds are distributed. Four, oversight capacity that does not scale with spending. And five, diffuse accountability across agencies and contractors. This combination of factors has fostered a booming new sector of the economy that relies upon the continuation of and expansion of government programs to fuel private sector profits. I want to be clear. Even when the law is being followed precisely by every jot and tittle, Incentives still
All right,
exist.
we are going to break
abe-
away from the oversight hearing on fraud in Minnesota and switch over. You saw the picture there. House Speaker Johnson and GOP leadership, House leadership there having a press conference this morning. Let's go ahead and listen into this for a little bit on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Walt's waste scheme was. Democrats took money from our kids. Democrats took money from your kids, the kids who need it most, dumped it into fraudulent daycare facilities, and turned the other way when this abuse was reported. This has been their pattern, so this really shouldn't surprise anybody. But what's happening there is absolutely disgusting. Tim Walz can announce that he won't run again for governor, but he will still be held accountable by House Republicans. And that's exactly what we're doing this week in the House Oversight Committee. Republicans' efforts this week build on what we delivered in 2025, the largest middle-class tax cut in history. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Democrats voted to raise everybody's taxes, but we didn't let that happen as Republicans. We eliminated taxes on tips, on overtime, and tax cuts for seniors. We expanded the child tax care credit and delivered real relief for working class families. Now, we're going to further continue relief by lowering costs on housing, energy, and health care. Democrats can either get on board or explain why they're still defunding the policies that caused this crisis. And they're defending these policies that caused this crisis. Lastly, I want to end with recognizing President Trump and the actions that he took this weekend to protect American lives. For years, Maduro's regime turned Venezuela into a pipeline for deadly drugs, fueling one of the leading causes of death in our country. I think we all know somebody who has died from a drug overdose. President Trump stepped in and decisively took action. He didn't shy away from putting America first. He didn't shy away from taking action, and that's the bold leadership. That's exactly what we're bringing back to this country, and that's exactly the bold leadership that this country needs. And it's the same bold leadership that we're bringing to the House this year. With that, I'm proud to turn the floor over to one of my colleagues and friends, Carlos Jimenez, who is acutely aware of the situation of what's going on. So with that, Carlos.
I want to thank our conference chair. Thank you, Lisa, for this opportunity. And again, our hearts are with Doug Lemoff and his family. It was a great loss. Doug was a super, super guy. Turning to the topic of Venezuela, the number one job of any government is to protect its citizens. And for years, international drug cartels, terrorist cartels have been killing hundreds of thousands of us in America. And we've turned a blind eye. And so we have failed. We failed miserably in the number one job of any government, which is to protect its citizens. Donald Trump has reversed that. And with the arrest of Nicolas Maduro on Saturday by FBI agents, assisted by the way, an incredibly capable military and an operation that was unbelievable and will be historic in how it was all carried out. This administration has arrested Nicolas Maduro and his wife and brought them to face American justice for his hand in killing and harming Americans and in also harming American interests. Make no mistake, he was and he is the leader of the Cartel de los Soles from Venezuela. That's one of the cartels responsible for the deaths of, like I said, tens and hundreds of thousands of Americans for years. And so I think this is the beginning of, this is not the end of this struggle, because we have other cartels that we got to look at and destroy as they've had a hand in killing us here in America. And so
On behalf of the people that I represent, I want to thank President Trump for the decisive action that he took. The people in Miami, the people of the area that I represent, are very happy that Nicolas Maduro is out of the way. And now, hopefully, it paves the way for a free and democratic Venezuela. A Venezuela that is not an adversary of the United States, but a Venezuela that is an ally of the United States, and a Venezuela that is no longer ruled by an illegitimate leader, because Nicolas Maduro is, in fact, an illegitimate leader. It was proven by Maria Corina Machado and Edmundo Gonzalez when they won their elections a year and a half ago by over 70%. But he's an illegitimate leader, and so now we can turn to a free, hopefully a free and democratic Venezuela. I know that's what President Trump wants, and I know that's what the Venezuelan people in Venezuela and the Venezuelan people that have fled Venezuela want desperately for their homeland, to be able to say that once again they can go back home to a free, democratic, and prosperous Venezuela. Venezuela is one of the richest countries in natural resources in South America. They will be able to restore their country with their own resources. They're not going to need much help from the United States. And there are people that are already waiting, including Maria Corina Machado, to take the reins of power. It's going to take a while. This is not something that's going to be done overnight. This regime has been in power for about 25 years. We don't want chaos. We don't want bloodshed in Venezuela, and the Trump administration is working hard to make sure that that doesn't happen, but that at the end, there will be a free and democratic Venezuela. And again, I want to thank the President for taking his decisive action to protect American lives and American interests, but also to restore freedom and democracy to the people of Venezuela. Thank you.
First, I too would like to acknowledge the devastating loss of our friend and fellow Congressman Doug LaMalfa. Doug was a loving father and husband and a staunch advocate for California's 1st Congressional District and rural America. Our prayers, we will probably say over and over for the next few days, are with Doug's wife and family as they grieve this unimaginable loss. Since I last stood at this podium, the extent of the Somali fraud in my home state of Minnesota has been exposed even further. 23-year-old
You've been watching the live press conference from House GOP leaders. We need to take a quick break here on Live Impact News on WCNC+. Back here now at 10:34 in Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We are learning this morning that Department of Homeland Security is getting ready to deploy at least 2,000 federal agents to Minnesota. This as we're listening in now to the House GOP leadership press conference that's happening live. We'll continue to go to that and listen in live on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Thank you, Whip. I join all of my colleagues in mourning the loss of Doug LaMalfa. Doug was a dear friend who I knew since the day he walked into Congress. And he was a gentle giant, as a big guy who was just the warmest heart you could know, and had a great sense of humor and had a passion for water issues, for Western issues. He was the chairman of the Western Caucus, really cared about natural resources issues and fought for all of those and talked about them on the House floor with members of Congress all the time. Doug was respected by everybody, Republicans, Democrats alike. It's a big loss for all of us. And we know he leaves behind a loving family, a wife and young kids, and we're going to continue to keep him in our prayers. So it's a tough way to start a new year, but we also know what challenges are ahead for the country that we want to continue to work on addressing. We did a lot last year to start reversing the damage that President Trump and all of us inherited from the Biden years. The high inflation, the high interest rates, so many rules and regulations that were targeted to hurt families, to increase costs for families that we have been working to reverse. President Trump's done a lot of things through executive action. We worked closely with the president on things like the Working Families Tax Cuts, other big bills, over 20 CRAs, Congressional Review Acts, reversing costly, ridiculous Biden-era regulations so that we can lower costs for families. And we're going to continue. We have a lot more work to do. We talked about this yesterday very extensively. President Trump was fully engaged with our members yesterday, as he has been this entire first year. It's not even a full year in office. And yet we have seen an incredibly engaged president who is working with a Republican House and Senate and Congress to fight for the American people who had been left behind by the previous administration. We talked about what we can do to keep lowering costs in areas like energy, where in many states are now finally seeing less than $2 a gallon gasoline. That's more money in the pockets of families. Working on lowering health care costs, where Democrats only want to give money to big insurance companies. President Trump talked about letting have the decision on how to spend that money. Not the insurance companies, but families controlling where the money goes, and if they can get a better plan for themselves and their family, they should be able to make those decisions, as he's done other things to lower prescription drug prices. We're going to keep working on those ideas. We had all of our committee chairmen talking about all the things that are going to be teed up, things that are already coming through committee, lowering housing costs, so many other things that we're going to be doing, and then every member was able to give their input. And members gave a lot of really good input on looking at an agenda that's going to continue to focus on lowering costs for families and getting this country back on track as we celebrate 250 years of American independence. It's something to be proud of. But democracy is not easy. Democracy takes work. It takes engagement from the public. As we go into an election next, November, later this year, the country needs to stay engaged in fighting for the kind of reforms that we've been able to deliver so that we can keep doing what it takes to get this country back on track. We are excited about this opportunity. The margin's going to be as slim as it ever has been. And you'll get to report every day about, gee whiz, with a one-vote majority, can they do this and will they pass that? Might as well cue up the stories you wrote last year, because you had a lot of the same stories. Gee whiz, there's no way they'll be able to pass the reconciliation bill until it passed. Because we came together as Republicans to go deliver for those American families who are counting on us. While Democrats wake up every day, and we see it with Venezuela, some of the same Democrats who just years ago were saying, when is somebody going to do something about Maduro? And President Trump finally does and brings him to justice for all the horrible things he's done to kill Americans. And those same Democrats are then saying, how dare the president do it?
We're going to break away from that House GOP leadership press conference right now because happening out of Gastonia is a press conference to talk about the increased reward in an unsolved homicide, that of John Luke Moore, that happened back in 2021. This is happening out of Gastonia Police Department. We are also hearing from family of the Moore of Moore. So family are also speaking and present. So let's go ahead and listen in on Live Impact News.
Can I just get you to say spell your name and your relationships one more time?
Yes, my name is Stefan Moore. I'm the brother of John Luke, one of three brothers of John Luke. S-T-E-P-H-A-N, last name Moore, M-O-O-R-E.
My name is Laurette Avery, L-A-U-R-E-T-T-E-A-V-E-R-Y. I am one of the aunts to John Luke on his father's side.
Anything else? All right, great. Well, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we will try to re-rack this whole press conference that just wrapped up there, obviously out of Gastonia Police Department. But what we can tell you right now is that the governor's office approved a $25,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of the person or persons responsible for the death of John Luke Moore. That happened back in 2021. And this brings the total now to $34,000. We will again try to get this whole press conference for you, if not played here on the morning edition, later this afternoon for you on WCNC Plus with Nick Sturdivant. He'll start at 12:30. We'll be right back on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. At 10:43, you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Jane Monreal. I want to get you out to a live roundtable discussion happening out of South Texas. This is Secretary Noem, who's in Brownsville, Texas right now, traveling to check out the border and participating in a roundtable. He's going to take a tour and then hold a press conference later this afternoon with media in which she will take some Q&A then. But let's go ahead and start this roundtable discussion portion on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
Changed, and President Trump took over. Now you see them on a regular basis. Different agencies, in and out. There's great communication, and it's made a huge difference.
Thank you.
And it was a needed change for sure.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you, Bonnie. Thank you for hosting us today and for your family's willingness to tell your story, because I know that you were dramatically impacted by those policies, and it's a different day today, and we're grateful for that. But we also need to continue to work with ranchers, working with landowners along the border to ensure that we have the security that we need for years to come. So, Mark, do you want to?
I'm her husband.
Yeah,
of course.
go ahead.
And I have a law enforcement background. I worked with Brownsville Police Department for 37 years. And I can remember how unsafe it was for my kids even to ride their bikes. And even coming home for lunch, I caught 2 different separate loads coming down our street from Florida going down. So that
Loads
pretty
of
much is
illegals?
dried up. No, it was loaded dope.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Coming home for lunch and leaving for lunch.
Yeah.
But it's not that way now. Before, we didn't even want our kids riding their bike on the road because when they would bring loads in, they would fly down our street and they didn't care. In fact, my daughter, who's a Border Patrol agent, was jogging one time. She had to get off the road because they were...
So were they trucks filled with drugs?
No, they're cars. The ones that I stopped were cars, and they were just loaded. But that's pretty much dried up because the presence out here is you see a lot more agents out here than you ever did when Biden was, because like I said, it was all the processing that they did. So, but yes, it was bad out here.
It's incredible. We have seen since President Trump has been in office, just over the southern border, a 56% drop in just fentanyl that's been coming over the border. So significant of what just enforcing the law and having our Border Patrol agents out here being able to do their jobs again, what it does do for slowing down drug traffic. And it was a specific agenda by the cartels working with our enemies to kill off our next generation of Americans. And literally the Coast Guard every day is out on the waters. Now that we've secured the southern border, they're out on the waters interdicting drugs that they are shipping on our maritime seas and confiscating it by the tons. By the tons. We've set historic records in what we're able to take out of production before it ever gets here. But I never thought about the fact of the roads being dangerous down here because so many loads.
Well, Bonnie and I, a year ago last summer, right before I retired and before President Trump took office, were walking and we went over the levee, and there were 3 guys carrying bundles.
Was there?
Yeah,
Really?
that we ran into. And I had her call Border Patrol. Probably within a minute they were there. They got all 3 bundles and they got 1 arrest. The other 2 took off into Mexico, but they did a great job.
That's good. Good. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Richard.
Richard, yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
good.
Thank you for being here.
Oh,
Appreciate your presence. And I really admire what you're doing. You're doing a great job. That man next to you, I've known him for a long time.
Have you?
He's a good.
You're going to speak for him? That's
I'll
good.
vouch for him.
You'll vouch for him. Good.
But I want to tell you that I'm a South Texas cattle rancher. I ranch up in Starr County, Roma, Texas. And where I'm at, I'm just exactly 1 mile from the border, and the Yellow Mine is right across from me. Cartels are right there. They fight each other every day, practically every day. I can hear them on my ranch. It's terrible. But prior to President Trump, thank God he came along. He is a great president. Now, I used to have a lot of traffic, human traffic and cartel traffic, armed intrusions on my ranch. People carrying bags of dope or whatever. And that has all stopped. Thank God for Border Patrol. And I do have an aerostat on my
Okay.
ranch.
Do you?
Which thank
Thank
God,
you.
Border Patrol. I've had them there for a long time. I don't even charge them now. They're free.
Thank you.
Okay?
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome to stay because I sleep better on my ranch knowing that they're there. They come in and out of the ranch all the time. They've stopped so many people already. But it's been a lot better. In fact, it has been exceptionally better since President Trump came along. I always wanted it to be. And just chit-chat, Starr County used to be blue.
Yeah.
It is now red.
Really?
It is
Did
red.
people change how they were voting because of what they saw happening at the border?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And I can attest to you, what they used to do, tear down the fences, cattle, tear it down, anything you could think of. It was horrible.
So what did you have to do to keep your family safe and feel safe on your ranch during that time when there were so many people coming across your
Well, I don't
ranch?
mind telling you, I carry guns.
Yeah. Yeah.
Self-defense, I've got a double-barreled shotgun.
Yeah.
You know, and I got P-57 in my truck all the time when I'm out of trash. But I built a game warden, a game fence around the ranch,
Okay.
which has been real helpful, but they tear that thing up. And that's expensive to rebuild.
Yeah.
But the experience has been pretty much stopped, you know, since President Trump came along. And also, I have to thank Governor Abbott.
Yeah.
Governor Abbott has been very active, as Mr. Banks will say, when he was the czar for Governor Abbott. I know Governor Abbott.
Yeah.
Thank God, I know this guy. So, you know, it's a big improvement to have the Border Patrol, the DPS, all around in Starr County. There's still some illegal activity going on.
Yep.
You know, but the human trafficking has pretty well stopped.
Good.
You know, so that, I'm grateful for that, and I hope that it continues to safeguard our property and those around us. You know, it is a very satisfying feeling to have people around us like that. Border Patrol comes in and out all the time, day and night. Aerostat is up.
Good.
I am very comfortable with that.
Well, thank you for working with us. We appreciate having
Yes, ma'am.
a good
Always
rancher
happy.
landowner like you that recognizes that we need those partnerships in order to keep people safe. And
I don't mind telling you that I've had senators come to the ranch and visit with me.
Yeah.
Senator Cruz,
Yep.
Senator Hardy,
Okay. Yep.
and met also with Senator, what's her name, up there?
Blackburn.
Yeah, her.
Oh,
too.
sure. Yep.
I met with them,
Smart lady.
and, you know, talk about our problems specifically in our area, which has been horrible.
Right.
But it now, thank God for the new president and you, I give you a lot of credit for doing what you're doing. So, thank you so much, appreciate your presence, and thanks for being here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. When President Trump first asked me, you know, he said, Christy, I know that I'd like to have you in my administration. What job would you be interested in? I said, sir, I'd be interested in Homeland Security. And he said, why would you want that job? It's a little bit of a controversial job. And I said, well, sir, it's your #1 priority. And I think you're going to have somebody who actually is tough enough to do it, who actually will. It's because we're not going to fix the situation that Biden got us in 6 months or in a year. It's going to take us a long time of making the right decisions in order to get all the dangerous folks out of our country, to start have the world needs to know that we're enforcing our laws now and that we're going to put the American people first.
So we thank you for that, thank you, and thank President Trump.
Yeah, I'll tell him.
He's got my support anytime.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Richard. Deborah?
Madam Secretary, I just want to thank you for being here. I grew up out here my whole life. We rode horses. I trained for my first half marathon out here along the border. I myself am into politics locally because having been on the farm and growing up and listening to the farmers and ranchers and all the locals talk, they felt like they didn't have a voice. And nothing was truer during the Biden administration when we couldn't get anybody to come down here and look at what was truly going on during his administration at the border. Having been in politics locally, I used to get calls all the time. We've got issues downtown. We've got folks panhandling at our businesses, sleeping on our streets, showering in our streets. And I am so very grateful that we've got you guys everywhere now. You yourself from Washington have come and looked at what's going on here in Brownsville. We couldn't even get the border czar at the time to come do that when we had 2,000 people a night crossing. And I am very, very grateful to see the steps and the strategies that the president has put in place to help combat what we were seeing a couple years ago.
Good.
And I'm thrilled. I was one of the ones down here locally that championed to help him get elected, and I'm absolutely thrilled to see him in office and doing what he said he was going to do, which was one of our top priorities living here on the border for sure, and having to deal with it daily. So thank you for being here, and thank you for taking notice.
So if you're a runner and you were, during those years, did you feel like you were safe going out for a?
You run in twos.
Yes.
My sister's a Border Patrol agent, and she often runs with me. And then,
Okay.
as Mr. Guetta said, we always carry.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Always. My grandpa taught me that from a young age.
Yeah, that's
so,
right.
yeah, I learned to shoot early.
That's right. Good. Yes, sir.
Tommy Gendrich,
Tommy.
fourth-generation Texan, born here, and farm vegetables and ranch cattle, ranch up in Benny's County up there.
Okay.
So I've had experience with illegals there and down here. Don't have a river farm, but I know many of these guys that do have these river farms, what they've been going through, but it's the same way. We have a friend there in Eagle Pass that was, 2,000 a day. And it's gone to nothing, like you said. And one of the real sad things about it, your agents hated it back in the day. They just didn't even want to go to work. And now they're very proud.
Yeah. They are. They finally get to do their jobs, and they feel like they can do it with respect again.
Yes, ma'am.
Because they take an oath to protect people and to enforce the law, and they were told by their superiors to not enforce the law, to break the law. And they had a difficult time with that. I know nobody knows that better than Chief, but they were very, very happy to get to work as soon as January 20th came around and President Trump was sworn in.
Yes.
It was a game changer.
And I better mention my wife is from South Dakota.
Oh, she is?
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. Well, you pick them good
Planking.
then. Yeah, that's a good.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I hope you
Yes.
come up and visit once in a
We'll
while.
be up there this summer, hopefully.
Not in January.
Yeah. When she asked me if I ever want to live there, I said, 100 degrees in the summer and minus 30 in the winter. I don't know. I think I might stay down here.
There's days you think the weather's trying to kill you. That's right. Oh,
Thank you,
good.
ma'am. Madam.
So is it Thomas or Tommy or?
Tommy Hanka.
Okay.
I'm a vegetable farmer in South
Okay.
Texas, and I own land right on the river, north of the wall and south of the
Okay.
wall. And before the Trump administration, we simply did not go down there after dark. And unlike these guys, I don't carry a gun because I didn't want to get in a shootout with these guys. But now we can irrigate all night. We irrigate 24 hours a day. But south of the wall, we used to have to shut it off at dark. And also we used to have to move the equipment north of the wall because it would get vandalized or stolen. And thank you guys so much for.
And that was a little bit of the roundtable discussion happening right now out of South Texas. Secretary Noem is in Texas for most of the day, so we may be dipping into some of the coverage that we're allowed to as the day wears on. Because our time is coming up here as we come up on 11 o'clock. Want to remind you, because of the Panthers playing this Saturday, we have extended Panthers on the Plus coverage every night this week, starting at 9 o'clock. Pre-game show is on Saturday about an hour before kickoff. That starts at 2:30 with our Nick Carboni, Danielle Stein, and Logan Campbell. Enjoy the rest of the week. I'll see you here later on, WCNC Charlotte at 4. Have a great morning.